An experienced former Secretary of State on one hand, set to become the first woman president if she were to win, versus a senator who rails against the richest 1%. Is the U.S. getting set to become a socialist nation? We continue to follow the Occupy White House movement from New Hampshire. Travis Bennett is the president of the College Democrats of New Hampshire. He joins me live from Plymouth. Travis, welcome to the program.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Tell us who you voted for today.
I voted for Bernie Sanders, definitely, Senator Sanders.
Okay, why is that? What is it about the 74-year-old senator that appeals to you?
Well, I've been following Senator Sanders for a while now, and his really just his record voting in Congress and in the Senate just speaks volumes to his integrity and his positions, just advocating for the middle class and average Americans. Because really, in Washington now, we've just seen a system develop that really works mainly and primarily for wealthy corporate interest groups and just people who can afford to lobby Congress and the presidency enough to get their interest across.
Okay, how do you expect him to fix that problem?
Well, I think campaign finance is a big thing that he's been focusing on, and he's really the only candidate that has tried to, style his campaign so that it's really kind of, going against that whole system of, super PACs just throwing endless amounts of money into, the electoral, political system. So I think he's really the only candidate so far that's, taken that approach to his own campaign, and also just reversing the whole Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court. Taking steps to, roll that back also is a key part of his platform.
Yeah, the U.S. could make history again, though, with Hillary Clinton, the first female president of the United States. Does that mean nothing to you?
Oh, I have a great deal of respect for Secretary Clinton. If she were to win the primary, I would be 100% behind her. But I think the things that really drawn me to Senator Sanders are really just his voting record. Like he voted against the Iraq War. Invasion, voted against just the really giant massive bailouts for Wall Street that had very few restrictions and regulations, and were just massive billion-dollar bailouts with no real incentives for the average taxpayer. So I think those things are two of the key points that are drawing a lot of support for Senator Sanders.
There's a lot of concern, not only in the United States, but around the world, about the inequality, how the rich literally are getting richer and the poor getting poorer, and the middle class also getting poorer as well. How would you describe the state of the middle class in the United States?
Well, I think as a student I'm also a state representative here in New Hampshire, and in my senior year at Plymouth State University. And I think really, through my eyes, just seeing my fellow classmates, I mean, the U.S. right now, we are a first world nation. We have very, high per capita GDP, relatively low unemployment. But for young people, I mean, we're one of the only nations in the, developed world that has a system where, we're having our students graduate with thousands of dollars worth of debt. And, U.S. students are really at a global disadvantage, as far as, competitiveness with, other nations that have access to higher education for, much less of the cost. So I think that alone, right now, our generation is really struggling to find its place in the global economy. And I think that's going to either come to a head, or hopefully if Senator Sanders wins, it will be resolved in the next 5 years and a different system will be in place. But right now, that's one of the biggest issues I see in my daily life, just the struggle of students to pay for school and get their lives going, really. I mean, it's tough.
He has advocated for free tuition or reduced tuition, depending on where you attend. But what you're saying is actually borne out by a report from the UN even yesterday, saying that 44 million people in developed countries like the United States are unemployed, 12 million more unemployed than even during the last recession in 2007. So the situation is demonstrably getting worse. What system, when you say you want Bernie Sanders to change the system in 5 years, what system would fix this problem?
Well, I think it's obviously going to be very difficult just to have, blanket free tuition. I don't think that's going to, be implemented anytime soon. But I think, definitely, having a better interest rate system, just, allowing students to refinance their interest rates right now, because, currently in the U.S., you can refinance a car or a, mortgage interest rate, but you can't do that for student loans. So you have students that are paying, almost double the amount of their actual tuition just because of the interest rates. And I think, that's something that almost passed Congress, but was, shot down since the Republicans control the legislature. But I think that proposal is something that will hopefully go through within the next year or two, and is something that can have an immediate effect. And I think hopefully with his proposal of at least reduced or partially free tuition, I think moving in that direction is ultimately the best goal for the U.S.
All right, Travis, what about Donald Trump?
Oh, Trump. Yeah, well, I think I saw this. I don't know if you guys up in Canada have heard of Vermin Supreme at all, but I heard of this. He's the guy who wears the boot on his hat or on his head.
Yeah.
But he basically said that he paved the way for Donald Trump because his politics, Vermin Supreme, is kind of a joke about how absurd politics is and how it attracts so many people that are less than reputable. And he was saying how he's kind of paved the way for Donald Trump, and I think it's there's a grain of truth to that because what Trump's been doing. I mean, he's tapping into that populist vein, but it's it's the dark side of the populist vein, I guess you'd say, because he's kind of tapping into that anger and to a lesser or greater extent hatred of some of the voters who have these opinions towards immigrants or.
What would you do if Donald Trump won the election?
That is a good question. I do not have the answer to, unfortunately, but hopefully it won't come to that, and I don't think it will. So. I'm not too worried.
Yeah, he's a very polarizing figure. People either love him or they hate him, that's for sure. Travis Bennett. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that's true for Republicans, so I think that's an interesting aspect.
All right, Travis Bennett, president of the College Democrats of New Hampshire. Thank you for joining me today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Okay. Voting continues in New Hampshire. Stay with CBC News Network for the latest on the state primary. Polls start closing at 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll bring you the results when they start coming in.